Good morning. It's a pleasure to present this webinar for you. My name is Dan Leeskar. I'm chairman with Eon Reality. And we're going to talk today about the next frontier in medical education. A frontier that many companies or organizations within healthcare already are using. And specifically how augmented and virtual reality can help the healthcare sector. Very shortly about our company. We've been around for 20 years. We focus on using this technology, virtual and augmented reality, for knowledge transfer. And we work both with large academic institutions and blue chip companies around the world to help them in this process of adopting the technology. Today I'm going to focus not so much on government. We do work with about 70 different governments around the world. A little bit on academia, as an initiative we call Classroom 3.0, and focus, of course, a lot on the industry aspects of healthcare. Now, before we perhaps we should take a step back and look what's important with healthcare. I guess the key is the word empathy. So when we talk about digital transformation, what we really mean is how can we improve the existing processes better, and how can deliver things more efficient, and how can we do it in an affordable way to provide better care. It boils down to those simple principles. And in this context, after working in this for 20 years, I truly believe that one of the biggest benefits of the technology of virtual and augmented realities is in the area of healthcare and medical education. And I'll try to be a little bit specific. So I'll use an example, and one example is surgical training. And you all are very familiar how the training is done today. You use something called residencies, and you literally undergo on-the-job training. Of course, you have supervision, but nevertheless, you have to do it on a real patient. Because you can't just do it on a paper and pen or theoretically or watching videos, right? So nothing can replace that tangible experiential learning. Unfortunately, this has some quite severe negative effects. This is a statistic that we looked at from September 2013. It talks about general surgery residency and the results of a survey of fellowship from program directors. And I'll quote just some parts of the results. 38% demonstrated lack of patient ownership. 30% could not independently perform a laparoscopic procedure. 66% were deemed unable to operate for 30 unsupervised minutes of a major procedure. This is pretty scary. And if you look what this translates into, you can see it here. The third reason of death in the United States, this is a study from Johns Hopkins, they estimate that medical error is the third leading cause of death. Okay? So this is something extremely extremely severe. It's something that we need to address. Now, if you add to that the increasing complexity of medical technology, all the machines that are coming, the upgrades, all that translates in high need for training in order to improve the outcome of care. And because as you increase the complexity, you also increase the risks and you increase the need for training. Okay. Now, before we get into the solutions, I also want to quote John Dewey saying that if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. So now for you that are perhaps not so familiar with virtual augmented reality, let me start with a definition. On the left-hand side here, you see virtual reality. So you wear oftentimes a headset, or you can have surrounded screens, and you are encapsulated in a synthetic environment. So if you take off the headset, there's nothing there. And using augmented reality, you are actually seeing the real world, the real operation room, but you get superimposed digital content, information, enhancement, So that helps you in conducting the process or the training or whatever you wish to do. Also, I would like to start with an example, a concrete example of how EON is implementing this. And this comes from a medical school in Asia at NTU, Nanyang Technology University, where we have built a center that is used for this purpose, for technology-enhanced learning. And this was recorded during an event where we had more than 450 participants to the center from more than 50 countries.
The key challenges we face in undergraduate training are the need to ensure our students have those foundational skills, and they need to be able to practice in a safe space. And the way of doing that in a realistic environment is using AR and VR technology.
We must know that human brain and learning capacity have not changed as fast as the world around us. There is need to create opportunities for continuous learning. We must learn faster and more flexibly. Learning to learn, being able to acquire new skills, and thinking critically and creatively are some of the key factors for the education of tomorrow.
So yes, so here you'll see some examples of concretely what we've developed in this context to help both learning, but also help practitioners in their daily life in the medical healthcare sector. Okay, so let's look at a concrete example. This comes from Loyola University, one of our partners. We developed an iSim ophthalmology VR simulator. And what this simulator does is what you would expect to do it. So it does learning through practice, and you can practice on various things. There's multiple modules like ocular anatomy, pupil simulator, ocular motility simulator, visual pathway simulator, etc. So more specifically, I'll show you an example. So first, we focus on things that you would probably figure out or you'll expect the simulator to do. So you can look at the eye and you can select various aspects of the eye, major structure, nerves. You can annotate the different parts. You have to identify it. So you totally familiarize yourself with the anatomy of the eye. Okay. Then you do other things, like you may want to dissect the eye. So you have the ability to take it apart and look at different aspects. You also have the ability to understand blood flow, orbital bones, how the muscle function, all these basic things that virtual reality is actually very conducive to use. But here's the interesting part. We don't stop there. In fact, this is just the beginning. What we can also do, and you'll see in the next seconds, is we can inject various dysfunctions in an eye. So cranial dysfunction, pupillary dysfunction, visual pathways. So I can put, for example, Horner syndrome into an eye, and I can, using the device, I can see how the eyes react to this, and based on that, the student has to depict what's wrong with the patient. And we can inject multiple different dysfunctions, and in a very short time span, the student can learn and become quite proficient on diagnosing. We also do visual pathways, which you saw there. So this is an example of how we do it. There's a whole range of more advanced aspects of this, which I'm not going to go through right now, because this will be a longer presentation, but it goes fairly detailed, all I can say here. And if you're interested in this specific application, let us know and we'll provide you a special session. I'm more keen to share with you right now some results. This is a study conducted by University of Nebraska Medical Center, and I think the results were pretty remarkable. So what we looked at is the participants' confidence to perform a pupillary examination before and after training with the simulator. And what you can see to the left hand this area is students, and to the right you can see residents. Blue means that the student is not confident, and red means that the student is confident. So pre-training with the simulator, 97% of the students were not confident, only 3% were confident, and that picture reversed after training. So 97% were confident and 2% were not confident. So that's pretty interesting. It's even more interesting when you look at residents. 53% were not confident before, and after 94% were very confident. So it shows that simulators are making a big impact in the core aspect, which is training. So if this is so good, how come not every medical institution are using it today? And that's the big problem that EON has focused to solve. So if you look at higher education today, 28%, 26,000 academic institutions have used virtual reality in some capacity in piloting it. But 82% of them have not, after that, moved beyond the pilot. Why is that? And the main reason is to do what you just seen is time-consuming, complex, and expensive. Takes a long time. So, and that's our task. We've been asking ourselves during the last 20 years, specifically during the last 7 years, how can we make it cost efficient and faster and better? So people can start in mass volume deploy this, not to a few students, but to thousands and thousands of residents and students. And that's where the platform comes in. So we developed a platform that addresses this. Let me make it simple, use a metaphor of an iceberg. So most people, when they look at augmented virtual reality, they see the top, they see the gadgets and they see the screens, etc. What they don't realize is what's required to make this work. What is required to make that ophthalmology solution? So first of all, you need to be able to import data, perhaps medical MRI data. You need to bring that data to life. So when I'm moving my instrument, the pupils react to that. And then I need to be able to publish this seamlessly to my phone, or a screen, a desktop, laptop, or a headset, or a large seminar environment. And that's what EON does very well. That's what the platform does very efficiently. And it allows you to generate that content, not by having experts in programming, but having people that today have tough time mastering a PowerPoint, and at the same time be able to import the MRI data, generate the content, publish it on anything from a phone to a dome, keep track of who's using and how well the students respond to this, keep track on the content. Some of this content could be very sensitive, so it has to be protected, and also make sure that you integrate this with existing solutions that exist, and that the university or the hospital has. And on top of that, also having the data accessible in the cloud or store it locally, be able to analyze, assess how well students do, for example, connection with IoT. We're also using AI for image recognition and assessment, and underlying the whole thing is a secure environment. We work, for example, all the way with defense organization or patient data where such is required, and it's very important to have the needed security. I would like to do an approach and explain how we do this. So we have 3 approaches. One is about learning, the other one is training, and the third one is about performing. In the interest of your time, I'm not going to show you the videos. I'm going to jump into the solution. But just a little glimpse. So we have this ability, let me lower the volume. We have this ability to, first of all, use normal devices, not only headset. There's 4 billion ruggedized tablets, phones, smart devices, iOS, Android, and we can work with all of them. and we can work with them in a virtual reality setting, like you see there, using a simple card box or a more advanced virtual reality headset, doesn't matter. And then when you are in this environment, you can explore things. We have access to a library, the world's largest library, more or less 870,000 assets. And we'll do a little test on anatomy shortly. You can also run this in a mobile environment like you see there, or augmented reality like you see there. So you can switch between augmented reality, virtual reality seamlessly. This is the library I was talking about. And then the way to create the content is a little bit like PowerPoint. If you can master PowerPoint, this is actually easier. A very visual environment for people that don't know how to program. So once you learn, then we can take you an environment and train. So you can actually do practical things. So this is an application developed for JSK, for medical, for drug manufacturing. And there's a trainer in one location, and there is a teacher in another location, and they can actually learn also how to maintain the equipment. And then what we do as the next step is, once you perform in reality, we can help you with that also. So we can give you step-by-step instruction, for example, how to prepare an operation room, and it's overlaid in the physical environment.
Welcome again to the AVR
So
platform.
to do all that, we need a platform. And the platform that you see here, I'm going to actually go into real platform. So our focus is effortless, affordable, self-service, and you'll see the platform in a second. So in essence, it contains two things. One is the ability to effortlessly, affordable, self-service, interconnected, and access to the assets, do it yourself. To the left, think about it a little bit like a YouTube, if I may, for virtual augmented reality. And we also have a vault that contains a vast catalog of pre-existing augmented and virtual reality applications, more than $70 million worth and daily increasing of application, a lot of them in the medical sector. I'll share those with you in a second also. So on the bottom, you have the flexibility of the platform to create whatever you wish. On the top, we have the depth in that specific segment that you are engaged in. And in between, you have a marketplace. So there's an opportunity for partners to develop additional application that they can put on the marketplace and receive 70% of the revenues that we sell those assets. Okay. However, what we discovered early is that it's not only about technology. In fact, the pedagogical aspect of how we convey this information, especially in the medical sector, is very important. So for that purpose, we have gone in and actually set up a non-profit organization we call Eon Reality Education. And it's focused on advancing the cause for augmented virtual reality. And we were very fortunate to get our chairman for this organization is Professor Bertil Andersson. And Bertil is the former chairman of the Nobel Prize Committee in Chemistry, and he was the rector and president for NTU University, that he took from number 86 in the world, and here's Bertil, to number 11. And he also set up a medical school. And one of the first things he did, maybe we should listen to him for just a few seconds.
And I have been leading Nanyang Technological University, NTU, as its provost and also its president. And I'm very excited to come
So
to
what he did
Laval
is he took this university, and the first thing he did, he transformed truly education from this.
talking, preaching, and we as students were sitting there listening. We were quite passive consumers of information, you could say. But that format is being challenged very much by rapid developments in information technology. And I normally say that in education today, we are going from Gutenberg to Gates. And I also say that our most important professor is Professor iPad. Professor iPad knows all the answers. So when you go to a classroom today, there is no lectures, everything is recorded. There is team-based learning, no passive students. We have what we call flipped classrooms, where the student sits in group around small table discussing.
So this is what he refers to as Classroom 2.0 and the mentorship. But then together we took this to the next level, which is Classroom 3.0, which is the experiential aspects of learning. And what I mean by that, let me just see if I have a little clip here.
2D information. We automatically have to turn that information to 3D within our brains. You can call that this is creative thinking or abstract thinking. But that is what's going to happen, what needs to happen for us to understand concepts, say, within chemistry, medicine, biology, particle physics, engineering, architecture,
and so on. And of course, medical is where we started. So Bertel joined after he left NTU, which was last year. He's joined our board as a chairman for EON Education Advisory Board. And he brought in a lot of talent from around the world, including Jenny Higham, former Imperial College, that's principal at St. George University, London, which has a huge hospital with 20,000 employees. Jan Karlstedt, senior advisor for medicine in NTU, also from working with Karolinska before, and many others that help with the pedagogical aspects. Okay, so let's talk about adoption now. So who's using this today? So we work with many academic institutions and quite a lot of companies. And why do we do that? There is evidence, actually hard evidence from studies, independent studies, BBC published one of them, that it helps to increase your test score. Attention level goes up because you can't sleep through a simulation, surgical simulation, for example. And that translates in better retention. 86% of students in a VR classroom improve their test scores. And you can actually measure this and see it visually in your brain. A normal brain versus an AR brain. 70% increase in memory encoding. Let me show you a little video of that.
So this part of the brain is associated with visual attention. It's what's occupying our eyes in the visual field. And we measure responses in both the left brain, which is attention for detail and words, and the right brain, which is attention for more the overall feel of something, the global aspects of processing. In the case of augmented reality experiences, we see levels of visual attention that are around double the levels that we see for the equivalent experiences carried out in a more everyday normal setting.
Double. And there's a lot of more hard evidence that I'm not going to go into today. If you're interested in this, let us know. You'll get a report. Contact us. So biotech education, for example, you can see lecture versus simulation and simulation learning in improvements. But you can also see it in the EdTech spending. So everybody talks about AI today and robotics and blockchain. But if you look both today and where the industry forecasts the growth will be by 2025, you can see that AR and VR will be double the spending versus, for example, AI, and 4 times larger than robotics and significantly larger almost than blockchain. So this is something that there is a consensus that's very important. I'll finish with some healthcare use cases. I'll start with learning, VR learning. So this is an example of cardiac ACG developed by Deakin University School of Medicine. And you can first explore, then you can learn, and then you can assess. So there's 3 different modes. And you can use normal devices like a tablet, for example. You can also use more sophisticated ones. And first you learn, and then after that you train. You can see it here. I'm going to jump through these videos in the interest of your time. And of course, then you have a patient, and you have to basically see that you're doing the right things. And here we're using our fingers to interact in this environment, but you can do it in a much more immersive way if you want to do so. So highly interactive, experiential-based learning. And let's look at the results, what people thought about it. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but just the first one here, cardiac ECG contributed to my understanding in a way that would not have been possible by attending a lecture or reading a textbook. 85% said that. And 92% said, I found cardiac ECG app motivated me to learn more about ECG. And I can tell you one thing, because I did recently about 300 lessons myself. I just wanted to, and I learned a lot by just not only experiencing a lesson, but creating a lesson, which is interesting. NHS in UK National Health Service are using this for example for learning and teaching around chest emergencies. So you can see that in augmented reality, you can see that in virtual reality. This is just a brief video of what we do. In sepsis diagnosis, in ops simulators, so this you see the how to breach birth, and you can superimpose this information also in augmented reality. I should just show you now the one related to mobile. Then we have also done a lot of simulators. You saw one of them, the eye simulator, but we also have things like thyroid biopsy simulation that's been developed with the US and Canadian Academy of Pathologists. I can show more of that. We're also doing labs. So oftentimes, for example, labs are preoccupied with safety and how to handle flammable objects. And it's seldom that you have the ability to train different scenarios, but we can do that in a safe way in our environment. Also examples of pharmaceutical production training and maintenance repair operations. I'll show you, we have something we call virtual trainer. You can see here the outcome and how well someone has performed. So this one is from JSK. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but you'll see here the ability to have a digital twin of the physical environment on which you can train long before the physical environment is even available. And not only that, but you can also do an augmented reality procedure. So let's say there's an interruption in production, you can then go directly and act and get guidance how to repair. After you train, you get the guidance how to repair it, and that shortens the lead time to actually address the issues. Patient care communication, we think that area is very interesting. Again, JSK, this is communication to see how a patient is affected by illness. And it's very important to, when you address the issue with drugs, to understand the effects. So at this point, I was planning to do a quick demo, just to give you a flavor of what's possible. Let me just minimize. I have a lot of other windows here. So first of all, you have the platform. We're going to go through that very shortly. But you also have the Vault. And the Vault is this very rich set of pre-existing assets. So if I go, for example, to medical, I'll see here that you can have access to not only ophthalmology simulators, but patient education around appendicitis. Here's the biopsy one that I was talking about earlier. You can see how it works. And these you can purchase those simulators. If you partner with us, you can get a lot of these in packages, so you don't have to pay the full price. But this helps you to get started fairly quickly in whatever area you may be interested in. Now, if you want to do it yourself, that's also very much possible. So this is what I did in a very short time span. I created a lot of applications. And let's say we want to create a lesson. Let me select one here. Actually, let's do one that I've already done and edit that lesson. Let's see something about devices. Okay, how to save lives with the defibrillator. Let me play that lesson quickly. If you're interested, I have a whole workshop that I recommend you to participate, that you can see in about, in less than 1 hour. You learn how to be proficient and use this type of technology yourself and create applications if you want to do so. Now, for the people that use it the first time, they may not be familiar with all the aspects. So here you can, let's learn. So, okay, so how do I do it? First, you have to listen up, click on the play button to hear. So there's a voice narration. And by the way, that can be done in more than 30 different languages. We have text-to-speech. Watch and learn. There's also videos embedded in this that you can create. Moving right along. So here's the device, lesson overview, because you have an intro, you have quizzes. You can skip around, so you don't have to follow it linear. You can go to assessment directly. You can, of course, explore everything in 3D. You can follow the hierarchy, oftentimes. X-ray vision. That's something that you want to see something inside things, especially anatomical things. You can break things apart. You get an annotation on all aspects of this device. And you also have the ability to make it move, if there's animation of parts, or pick and choose. This is ability to actually explore, dissect things. You also have the ability to pre-record a procedure.
One of the most important things.
So here is actually me recording the procedure, how to do it, how to use the device, which steps to do when. So a very rich set, but in a simple, clean, and clear way using the platform. So with that, let me just share with you what I've done. So for medical, I went to the vault and I picked up a couple of, this is about aneurysm, and I also picked anatomy dissection, sepsis, psoriasis, patient education treatment, cardiac, medical school orientation, OR rooms, etc., psychology, how people react in closed areas, hygiene related activities, etc., etc. And then on the health side, I did a couple of lessons myself. So I did an operating theater orientation, how to operate a surgical chair, medical ultrasound systems, pain removal with anesthesia, the defibrillator that I just, how to operate intravenous drip stand, the typical 10 medical instruments. So this it took me about average 10 to 15 minutes, but I had to learn also, excluding that, why hearing loss occurs, cataract lens surgery, actually learn how the process works, eye exams, how to reduce hair loss, sinus problems, breast cancer syndromes, cancer treatment for prostate, testicular cancer. Also did a study on which aspect of pancreas cancer Steve Jobs passed away, knee replacement, coronary heart disease, and etc., etc. So you can see it's a pretty fast way. I also went a little bit into the microbiology aspects and so on. 870,000 assets. I challenge always my customers to give me an asset, because sometimes, I'll give you an example. So if you want to do operation training for an MRI device, there's so many different parts, and it takes on average, if you have to develop it from scratch, from the CAD models, up to 3 weeks to do it. And oftentimes you don't get access from the manufacturer to the CAD data. But in our library we have Siemens, we have GE, we have many different. Likewise for microscope, or operation rooms, or ambulances, medical equipment, microbiology, etc., etc., cancer, heart attack, brain, Alzheimer, ulcers, DNA, HIV, and so on. So I'll stop there, but what are the takeaways? So the big question is, how do we get training to the residents fast enough? And that's where we believe VR and AR can provide you a faster way. Students can learn faster, retain information longer, and make better decisions and be more confident because they have practiced. I think you're a little bit convinced that experiential training outcomes far exceed learning through textbooks or traditional means, and it's risk-free compared with doing it on a patient. We are in an era where healthcare is in a constant reskilling and upskilling. By the time you learn on a piece of equipment, that equipment will be upgraded. There is also a big need to there's a gap today. You have medical training and assessment. You have the theoretical part and the practical part, and that's the gap. We're not suggesting to remove the practical, touching, interacting physical with patients. What I'm saying is to create a bridge between that. So by the time you interact with a patient, you're in a much better position to do so. And with zero patient risk. In the end, we want to do it more cost efficient, more productive, but also when by the time a surgeon or resident actually is at the operation table, that the patient and their family can rest easy, knowing that they are in safe hands. So with that, I thank you so much. Very much looking forward to have a one-on-one interaction with you. If you have more questions or you want to request this presentation or underlying research documentation, feel free to reach out to us. Or simply call us by going to our website. My email, if you want to contact me, is Dan, D-A-N, @eonreality.com. I also am on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Thank you so much. Have a good one.